everyone. This is Jamie from the NOIC Godcast, where we offer wacky wisdom weekly from God's Word. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about how we can make sure that we are staying plugged into our relationships and what to do if our relationships get tripped and suddenly don't have power. So obviously this month we are talking about relationships and ways that we can make them better, stronger, by resetting them. Everyone watching us right now, and all of us at the table, all have something in common. We all have relationships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's my guess.
Yeah, I know. I had to pull that within, you know what I mean? No matter how much of an introvert, it's the Aldi's version,
Absolutely.
introvert you claim to be, we all have someone that we interact with on a regular basis. This could be a coworker, a parent, a friend, a spouse, or really anyone in your life. Everyone has a relationship when they're human. There's no way that you can just avoid everybody for the rest of your life. So, but I want to talk about how we can diagnose issues in our relationships and then what steps we should take once we realize that we have a problem. So I was preparing for this podcast and I was going into the guest bathroom to blow dry my hair, and I looked over at my outlet, and it has the GFCI. Mm-hmm. And for people that don't know, I mean, probably most people know, but basically it's so that if anything gets into the outlet, like water or whatever, it will stop it. That way you can't shock yourself, and it doesn't ruin your outlet.
Do you write your podcast in the bathroom? Don't answer that. You paused. Never mind. I don't.
I had hesitation. Never mind.
Well, no, because I can't.
My cord isn't long enough. But this is a safety measure that they've put in. Basically, you're supposed to have them anywhere you have water,
Right.
like kitchens,
Moisture,
bathrooms,
yeah.
all that stuff. But how can we apply this to our lives? I mean, it's just a normal, outlet. How are we supposed to apply this to relationships? Well, for one, you won't know that an outlet has tripped unless you're trying to plug in something into it. There's been actually several times that I've, plugged in a blow dryer or whatever. I'm like, why is it not working? It's because it's been tripped. And it may have been tripped a while ago.
You just now realized it.
But I just now realized it because I plugged into it. Or even if I don't even think about it. It's not like I walk around my house, I'm like, oh man, I wonder if all these GFCI outlets are plugged in. I don't know if they're working, if they're tripped, if they're not
You have
tripped.
a day of the week you go in and you
Right.
press all the resets.
You don't ever think about it unless you're using it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we do in our relationships. No matter what kind of relationship it is, we won't know if there's a problem unless we're actively plugging into it. And so if I, am, not talking to Rachel for 3 years, and then I'm never going to know if there's an issue. I'm just going to assume that it's all good, and she may be, mad at me.
Oh.
Yeah, you may be, you may be dead. I mean, you could be dead. But you're not going to know if it's tripped unless you're actively using it. We need to make sure that we're reaching out to the people that we are in relationships with. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to be in a constant group chat with all of your friends for you to be plugged in.
CJ loves group chats.
Yes, he
CJ
does.
loves
Everyone,
them.
text this number.
With a lot of other numbers.
Yes.
But what you do need to do is read your relationship and find out what you need to do for that. So the Bible, actually Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times and a brother is born for adversity. So the Bible doesn't necessarily specify exactly how each relationship is supposed to run. Exactly. The way that I interact with you is not inside the Bible that I have to text you 3 times a day, 4 days a week. There's just no specifying. But that's the whole point of a relationship. You're supposed to be plugging in and you're supposed to be communicating with that person to see what they need and what you need out of the relationship.
So do you always remember 2015 we did?
I doubt I remember.
Hashtag, yeah.
That was 16.
Hashtag struggles.
That was 16.
Oh, was it?
So 15 would have been
Fan
not
or
a fan.
follower. Yeah.
Right.
Fan or follower was the official
Sure.
title that we didn't steal from everyone.
Yeah.
Not a fan was the stolen version.
Yes.
I see.
Anyways, neither here nor there. Do you remember what DTR stands for?
Determine the
Determine the
relationship.
Define the relationship.
Define.
Yeah. And so I think that's big.
Are you sure you're right? Because they both are pretty good right
A majority rules here.
They share one brain. I have my own. So, anyways.
Not much.
So define the relationship. I think what you're saying is before you can start troubleshooting relationships, you need to know what to expect from a relationship.
Yes.
It's like you walk up to an outlet and you plug in a hairdryer. You kind of expect.
Yeah.
I need a new blow dryer.
But
You need to clean the vent on the back.
but you expect
Yes.
to receive power from that outlet
Yeah.
that you're plugging into. Well, with a relationship,
I don't know what happened.
there's that little brain again. With a relationship, you need to be able to define what to expect before you start troubleshooting. Because what will happen is if you start troubleshooting and that's not really what that relationship's about,
Yeah.
Right.
that's going to cause problems.
Yes.
Now you're tripped.
Yes.
And so like your relationship with your spouse or your your best friend or your parents or your coworker, they're all going to be different. And so it's a healthy thing for us to know the expectations. And Jesus really gives this model. Like this isn't necessarily a secular thing.
Yeah.
Jesus really defines for his followers what to expect before he asks them to follow.
Yes.
He
But
says
it's important not to define it by like mine and CJ's marriage is not going to be yours and Jacob's
Right.
or
No.
yours
Right.
and
Right.
Jenny's. So it's really important not to define that by other people's
Right.
relationships because it's
Yes.
going to be
Right.
different all across
only
the
the
board.
people in the relationship can define the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's healthy to understand that. Now that doesn't mean, when you meet your new mailman, you stop him with his arms full of bags and envelopes and you're like, sir, define this for me. What is this going to look like going forward? I need to know in case there's a problem.
Would you like me to come out the door and go, hey?
You're right. Like, should I nod? Should I wave? Should I whistle? Should I ignore you? That's not what I'm talking about.
Not about
Just to
dress,
clarify, I don't want to get hate mail from mailmen because that'd be ironic first. But then,
They would have to deliver it.
and this is from me.
Do they put stamps in there?
I don't know. I don't know. If you're a mailman, we have questions.
And then like somebody actually comments, yes, you do have to do that.
To mail our mail.
But that's exactly what I'm gonna go on with the rest of my stuff.
Okay,
Good plan.
good.
I like it.
So basically, the 3 closest relationships I think I have in my life are Jacob, Rachel, and my mom. Those are probably the 3 most closest relationships that I have. But I don't do. Sorry, CJ.
I felt that from over here.
You are one. Are you not? Did you not get married to her?
Cheap.
Used her name though.
Yeah. Duh.
We were friends first.
We were friends first before you guys were together.
Yeah.
I guess he was my brother first. Nah. You'll be fine.
Oh, that's great. That's
But
great.
all 3 of them,
I truly believe when you said we were friends first, you believed that. Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh goodness. But anyway, so like in each one of these relationships, I plug into them differently.
Yeah.
So Jacob, I live with the man. So I talk to him every day, whether that be in face to face or on the phone because he sometimes works and we have conflicting
Right.
schedules. So I'm constantly in communication with him. I text him more. I do what I mean. I'm in constant communication with him. While as like my mom, I talk to her probably every other day, if not every day, like through a text. At some point, she wants to know how Tolkien's doing. But Rachel, we don't.
We do not talk.
And I mean, I do not talk unless we are face to face,
Yeah.
unless we absolutely need something.
Yeah.
Like I don't call her unless it's like absolutely necessary.
Like unless she's on her way to my house and she's stopping at McDonald's.
yeah, like do you want?
Like, do you want some?
Like, do you want something? Or it's
Finding
like,
necessities here.
or it's what worry this week? What are you making?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we do not text or call.
no, and like that's the thing is, I would say that all 3 of these relationships are healthy
Right.
and they have open communication. But they all run.
They're defined differently,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're all totally different. And I think that's why you have to be plugged in because you can say, oh, a good friendship. I think most people, if they knew how much, I think people think we talk all the time. And so, like, if they knew that we only talk to each other on Wednesdays and Sundays,
Occasional Saturday.
occasional Saturday, like, they would think, oh, that's not a good friendship.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a close relationship like that. But we do.
And yet, as everyone at camp knows, you're Rachel Jamie.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my.
Or Jamie Rachel.
Well, okay, so that clears the air. Do you want to know why we talk the entire week of camp? It's because we don't talk.
Well,
They have a whole.
we've been together for like a month by the time
Yeah,
camps
that's
come
true.
up.
That's true. That's true.
Back in January, this happened.
But truly and honestly, I'm like, I don't remember the last time I talked to you. Did you know about this?
Yeah.
Like, that's.
Did you know CJ's my brother?
Did you know that? And so, like, if I'm gonna talk to you, I'm gonna like head to your house. Like, that's like I don't like. It's not worth it.
Instead of college, she just shows up.
I do, but like that's what you have to do in order to make sure that your relationships haven't tripped. You have to realize because like if me and Jacob didn't talk except for Sunday and Wednesday,
It's not healthy.
that's not healthy. That's a tripped relationship.
Right.
But me and Rachel do it, and it's fine. I think that's. Did anybody have anything to add to that?
You're doing so well.
Okay, thank you.
Continue with your thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now that you are plugged into relationships, because now we've realized that we have to have communication, you have to figure out what that means for your relationship. Now you're actively communicating and making sure that you are properly working on a regular basis. Now you need to figure out what to do if it's not working. So if you go to plug into your relationship and you notice that the power isn't there, something's off. So like maybe it's a fluke. Like I've had that time where you unplug it and you plug it back in because you're like, oh,
Just kidding.
It's just there's something weird. You know what I mean? I didn't plug it in right. I had it upside down. You know what I mean? Something. So you.
If it's upside down, never mind. Electrician question. Never mind.
If you're an electrician, we have questions.
If you try to plug an outlet upside down, you can't. Or can you?
Depends
depends.
how old the
If
thing
it's,
is.
yeah, it
like-
depends if it's
Yeah.
2-prong, 3-prong.
Some of them have
and
like
if it has the
some
same
of them
one
have
side,
like
like,
yeah,
fat
yeah,
one
okay,
side,
yeah. I'm sorry.
Old houses
was
though
a-
before that they were the same size. The
Yeah, it
hole was the
didn't
same size.
matter.
It didn't matter. You could lick it, plug it in. It was
Yeah.
fine.
I was trying to look at the outlets. In here to
I
see.
told you I have
I'm not gonna
electrocution
lick one.
stories. We're gonna show us a demonstration.
This is what happens when you get liquid. These don't have GFCIs on them.
No, they don't.
I lost my spot. So you go to plug into a relationship and you notice the power isn't there. Oh, so you keep on plugging in and you think like maybe I'm just like it's just a fluke. I'll plug in later. Like you go to talk to them and something seems off and you're like, okay, well maybe it's just a bad day for them. Maybe it's whatever. And so you walk away and then later on you try it again and it's still not working. It's still a problem. You think, well, maybe I need to start inspecting the relationship. So you're like looking around, you're looking at your relationship, you're doing your thing, and you notice that little orange light, the little orange light that says reset. And you're like, oh, there's a problem here. And so you press the reset button. And so you think that's going to work. You press the reset button and it doesn't. And it just pops again. I actually have a story about that. My dad, he likes to smoke food.
And we like him smoking food.
And so my dad was smoking pork, but probably for here, I would assume. That's usually where we
What
do
other group of people eats that quantity of pork?
it. True, very true. It was either here or work. And I have to imagine it was
He's
something.
cheating on us.
I know he is. But so I was, out there trying to help with this because he had to go to work and it was raining. And our outside plugs have the GFCI on them. And it was all plugged in. Everything was good. Everything was running. But it kept on tripping. I'm like, man. So I for like an hour or two, I was sitting outside pressing
Plug it in.
yeah, I was because the rain wouldn't stop. And so, but the food needed to be cooked. In my brain, I was like, this needs to be cooked. So I have to make sure that this stays on, that I'm giving power to this. And so I'm pressing it, And one thing I've noticed about that is sometimes when you want to press the reset button, it's not the time. This is the reason why you have to have God first before your relationships. You need to ask God if there's a problem, if you come up against a problem and your relationship's tripped. You need to ask him how to handle it and when to reset it. Just because you want to reset it doesn't mean that it gets reset. Yeah. And that's what I kept on doing. I kept on hitting that reset button and I'm like, this is going to fix it. Yeah. This is going to fix it. I was forcing power into the smoker, even though it wasn't running on its own.
So in that instance, like, as you keep hitting the reset button, I can imagine your hair wet and you're just like,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm standing out. Do you want the full picture? I was in my dad's work coat and like muck boots. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm standing out there and it's raining and I'm pressing the button. Thing. So there you go.
I noticed when you put on your dad's coat, your voice changed.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes, it has to.
So as you're trying to reset the button, but the other person basically isn't ready for the reset, that's why it's not working, you're actually pushing them further away from you than resetting it. And because, we are such patient people that we want people to even forgive us on our terms.
Yes.
Well, I think for a lot of it, like this hits home with me. It's not topic. Thank you for just bringing it up and pushing my button.
You're welcome.
But I think, like, especially as guys, or maybe it's just this guy, but like, I very much want to fix things
Yes.
that are not working correctly. But I think just like Kevin said, sometimes at the expense of just getting back to what it always was, we're willing to push through it when it's not ready to be pushed through.
Yes.
And we're more concerned with it being what it used to be than we are with fixing the actual problem.
Yes.
And that's not healthy. Like, even in your relationship with Christ, that's not healthy. In your relationship with your spouse or anybody, we should never be forcing things to be fixed without actually addressing the underlying problem.
Yes.
And I think in the relationships, we have a real tendency of just kind of desiring to get back to the norm or going through the motions.
Yep.
And that's never a healthy thing.
Yeah.
I am very much a routine guy. Like, unhealthily, I'm a routine guy.
You like a book. You like it to be by a book.
Yeah, I like everything to be nice and neat and tidy. But sometimes in all times, that's not a healthy thing for relationships.
No.
I think like, in a relationship, like when you're trying to get things back to the status quo normal, maybe that relationship needs to evolve into something else, and that's the disconnect. You know what I mean? Because the other person could have like been like, "I'm over here now, so you need to come over here," and you're still trying to.
I think the other thing is, and we talked about this yesterday in our men's meeting here at the church, but I think the other thing is recognizing that, especially in a marriage relationship, there's a third person in this party. It's not just two, it's three, the Bible says. And so I think that what we have to realize is that it actually takes more faith to allow things to be broken, but fixed in his time, than it does to actually just force the fix.
Yep.
Right.
When you force the fix in a relationship, that doesn't take faith. That takes blunt force
Yes.
trauma.
And it's a temporary fix.
Yeah.
And so it takes more faith to allow God's timing to come about and work about it, and trust him when it's not good until it's time to push that reset together.
Yep. And that's exactly, so with the smoker, I was trying to press the button over and over and over again. And I even tried to make makeshift things so that the rain wouldn't hit it. You know what I mean? Like I was really out there.
She's out there building a little house.
Listen, I had the extension cord inside of a wipe container. Like it was like a whole thing. But like
Where were you at during this time, CJ?
He wasn't living there.
Oh, okay.
This was actually not that long ago.
What, do you think he's her brother or something?
But
they were friends first. Right?
yeah, we were friends first before that.
Are you guys new here?
But like that was the thing, is I was trying to makeshift things. I was trying to band-aid it up.
Yep.
Even though it didn't matter if I stopped the water from hitting it, it already had water in it.
Right.
And so you have to give it time to dry before it will not trip again. And so that's my problem, was I was not giving it enough time. I was not allowing it to fully fix before I hit the reset button. Now, in my own way, I was like, I'm doing a good thing. I am making sure this pork is cooking and it's going to be delicious and it's going to be great. No. It wasn't. Actually, because I kept on hitting the reset button, it kept on refiring, and when it would refire, it would overheat and it would cause a grease fire.
Oh.
And so about 30 to 40% of the pork was burnt by the end of it.
So would you say your relationship with the pork butt was a hot mess?
It was a hot mess.
That was good.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that because Rachel had no response and it made me nauseous.
Oh my goodness. So I thought I was doing something good.
Yeah.
I wanted to fix the relationship. I wanted to fix the smoker. But the way I was doing it was actually harming, not helping. And that happens in our lives. If you're trying to force something, it's not going to make the other person like, wow, they're really trying.
Right. But don't we think that? Like every time that we convince ourselves of that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never happens.
It's no.
And it doesn't, it never works. And we do it every time. But if we were to pray and ask God for what to do, because you don't even have to be the one that's wrong in the situation. Like, you don't have to be the one that's wrong to want to hit the reset button. Sometimes the other person, even if they are, so say, like me and CJ, we are on the outs now, apparently, because he's upset.
Not surprised.
Look at him. And so... And so if we're on the outs, but it was his fault, I can be like, well, I just want to fix this problem really quickly. But what if our relationship is supposed to learn from this, not me just being like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, what if you're not supposed to just give in to the other person? The other person's supposed to grow from it.
We kind of talked about this in Sunday school a little bit this morning, but we have such a tendency to always choose the easy route.
Yes.
Yes.
Like the easy fix, the quick fix. Like we have spare tires, we have fix-a-flats, we have, back to your illustration with cars from like a year ago. I haven't forgotten.
Are we talking about the leg?
No. But in everything in life, like we always choose the easy fix instead of the hard, drawn out fix. And yet, biblically, especially in our relationship with Christ, he always chooses the long, drawn out, painful, excruciating efforts to get us somewhere. It's through the fiery trials that our faith is proven. He uses the tribular, the trials of our faith to prove us and get us into the shape that he wants us to be in. And so, do we want Band-Aids or do we want authentic fixes?
Well, I think when it takes longer to fix, that's when it remains.
It does
It
something.
stays.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to force it, and the other person, they're like, just let me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think like by going to God, because yesterday I was thinking about the whole triangle thing you're there. Okay. So every relationship is a triangle, okay, with God being the top point of it. So there may be a point where you're just higher up the triangle than the other person is. There is no, every time you hit the reset button, there may be a time when you're hitting the reset button and the person is just totally gone. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever reasoning, you know what I mean? Not every relationship is meant for you to fix. And then also, God is not going to fix every relationship that you're in. Like, sometimes God's going to be like, they need to go. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's really important to note, too, that in relationships, it does not matter, in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter what they do to you. It matters how you react to it.
Yes.
Because when I get up to heaven, God's not going to be like, well, why did they treat you like that? I don't know. He's going to be like, how did you handle it?
Did I ask you that though? I could see.
Why do you think they did that?
I know why.
That would be so God.
But no matter the relationship, no matter if you've known them for your whole life,
Like Rachel.
Rachel or CJ, okay, or for a short while, in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to make sure that you are tailoring.
Don't tell people. They'll hijack your car.
Tailoring. Why can't I say that? Tailoring.
Yes.
Am I adding too much R?
Yeah.
Tailoring. Yes.
Your relationships individually. And you need to make sure that when problems arise, and they will, that we need to go to God first to know what to do. And God is never going to steer you wrong and will always guide you to do the right thing in his perfect timing. But we need to be open to what he says, because I think the problem is that a lot of times we're like, God, how do you want me to handle this? I'm going to go handle this. Right. You have to take the time there too. It's all about time. It's all about patience. It's long suffering.
It's funny you bring that word up, long suffering, because I may have said this last week. I don't know if someone say it again. So like, to the outside world, long suffering is you're going to suffer for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when you become a Christian, you're like, oh, it's having patience with stuff. But then as you get deeper into it, oh, it's having patience when it's not even my fault.
You know, patience when you are suffering about it. It's all three.
Yes. All together. But basically, you just need to make sure that you're focusing on God first before you focus on trying to fix the relationship. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
It's not always healthy to push their buttons.
Nope.
That was my takeaway.
That is. All right. So today's considerable quote is, God doesn't want us to have friendships to merely fill our time with. He wants us to have appointed and spiritually nourishing relationships.
Who's that by, James?
Somebody on Pinterest.
Again.
Yeah, I don't know who it's by. It didn't have a name next to it.
And that's the only reason you chose it.
Yeah, I was like, nope. Not doing that. My feature content today is More Like Falling in Love by Jason Gray.
It's an old one too.
It is an old one. Today's Charge-Up Challenge is this week I want you to sit down and think about all the relationships that you have. First, I want you to recognize the ones that you need to be more connected with, whether that means talking to them more, sending a text, whatever the case be. Then I want you to pray and ask God to show you and show you the water that may be tripping your relationships. You may be putting water in the relationship and you might not even know it. Do we do my trivia first or the?
So we actually had a lot of help with last week's trivia, which we appreciate. But only one person got it right. Everyone else got it wrong, but one person got it right, and that person was Chris Ferguson. And so, way to go, Chris! Appreciated your comment on Genesis 27, which he brought up the point that that's the first place love is found in the Bible, is Genesis 27. But the answer was 442 times the word love is found in the Bible. And so, thanks, Chris, for answering that.
How many responses did we get?
I didn't count them. I don't know.
So many.
You can't count
There
that
wasn't
high.
that many. Not that many, but more than Chris.
Okay.
So this week's trivia.
So I want to know if your dad helped you with this one.
No, I actually knew what it was.
Did you Google it?
No, I actually knew what it was, but I had to really think of some for the others.
Well, that's what that was what my question was.
Yeah,
the other ones was
no, the other ones I had to like.
Gotcha.
It was me and Jacob were like, all right. So what does GFCI stand for? Ground fault control interface, ground fault circuit interrupter, ground fault or grand fault current initiator, ground fault circuit interferer.
It's a very nerdy question.
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a good one. All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Make sure that you like and subscribe, I guess, to our podcasts. And
You can comment if it.
And comment. You can comment.
Share.
You know,
Share is important.
whatever the thing is that you guys are supposed to be doing.
She's so old.
I am. I'm really not for this age. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
No, we need to pause because Kevin didn't get the story.
You didn't.
Oh,
Now is the
no.
time. Story time with Josh.
How do you know if I can? Please don't record this.
Oh yes.
I don't want
This
this
needs
played.
to be.
I don't want this played at my
It needs
funeral.
to be its own podcast. Just this story.
I want to remember you.
So
Spotlight on Josh.
So I left Walmart. Well, so it started before. I didn't realize you said Walmart. That's all I said. So I was
This is
in
the best.
Walmart. I mean, I can't even remember. I was in Walmart. No, I was in Walmart. This is like a couple years ago.
Okay.
And this is COVID, wasn't it? Because that was the whole thing. The
yeah.
stigma. Like you go
Yeah.
into like I avoided Sandusky like the plague because it was just awful.
Yeah.
Everyone's like you're near me and like it was awful. Well. So I was walking out of Sandusky Walmart, like up front, and like there's a self-checkout here, and I was coming past him, and I noticed that this was he behind me?
Yes, he was.
So
he
I
was
noticed
following
this
you.
guy walks out of the self-checkout and kind of follows me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I walked, I'm pushing my groceries to my car, and he keeps following me, and I'm like, surely at some point he's gonna turn it. No, he follows me, and to the point that we get to my car, and I get my key out, and
The key didn't work.
the key didn't work. I'm pushing it to lock it, and
But you
like
got in.
I'm opening the door to sit down, and he's like trying to sit in my lap, like he's trying to sit in my car, and I'm like, sir.
You got in the car though, right?
Did I get in the
yeah,
car?
I thought you
got in the
sat
car.
in the
I
car.
sat in the
got in the
car,
car.
and I'm thinking, this guy's a freak. Like, this guy's a weirdo following to my car, trying to get in my car. I looked beside me. This was his car. This was not my car. He had a black Kia Soul just like mine that was
is
parked
so
right
funny.
next to mine. Or
That's so
I don't even think it was next to mine. I think I just went to his.
It was on the
And so
outside of the
this whole
grocery
time, I'm probably freaking him out.
Why is this guy going to my car?
I was the freak.